In today's video, we're going to make a silky chocolate cake. And I have a very special guest today, my sister Noelle.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Alright, so this cake is going to be made into two parts. First making the icing and then making the cake. So what do you need for the icing? Well, to make the icing, we will need 2.5 cups of sugar. We'll need 2 cups of heavy cream, 10.5 ounces of unsweetened chocolate, 16 tablespoons of butter, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now to start off, we'll add the 2.5 cups of sugar into a small saucepan. After the sugar, add 2 cups of heavy cream. And then you'll bring it over to the stove, set it to boil. Once it is at boil, lower the heat until it's simmering for 8 minutes. Okay, let's do this one. As we're waiting for the sugar and heavy cream to start boiling, let's prep the chocolate. For the chocolate, you want to take all 10.5 ounces of it, break it into small chunks, and put it in a mixing bowl of some sort. As we wait for the heavy cream and sugar to start boiling, let's walk through the ingredients for the cake. So first of all, before starting the cake, go ahead and set your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Once your oven is set, you'll want to grab 3 cake pans. These are 8-inch cake pans, and you'll line the bottom of them, cut out a piece of parchment paper. Then you'll grease it down with either butter or some other form of grease, and flour it down. On the ingredient side of things, what you'll need for this recipe are 3 cups of sugar, 2 2/3 cups of flour, 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and we'll need 3 eggs, and 3/4 cups of oil. This can be vegetable oil or canola oil. You can use olive oil, but it will change the taste, so I wouldn't recommend it unless you really like olives. Last of all, you'll need 1.5 cups of milk. You'll also want 1 1/4 cup of boiling water, but hold off on that for now. And you'll also need 2 shots of espresso. Once your heavy cream is boiling, reminder to turn it down so that it's just simmering and set your timer for 8 minutes. Once that's done, we'll continue on with the icing. But while we're waiting, we might as well get started on the cake. So take a large mixing bowl or a mixer if you have it, and we'll start by adding all the dry ingredients to the bowl. So start with your 3 cups of sugar. While Noelle's adding the sugar, I'll be adding 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Next, we'll add 2 2/3 cups of flour, as well as 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. 2 2/3. Yes. We'll also add 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Last of all, mix in 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. It smells like those hot chocolate packets. Now that those dry ingredients are mixed together, we'll go ahead and set that on the mixer. Also, our heavy cream and sugar is finished, so we'll get started continuing on the icing. With your hot cream and sugar, go ahead and pour that into the mixing bowl with the chocolate. This is also where we will add the butter. Remember, this is about 16 tablespoons of butter broken down into small chunks. As well as mixing together the chocolate, the cream, the sugar, and the butter, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Alright, so your icing is done at this point. We can just set this aside for now. Once those dry ingredients are mixed together, we will add the 3 eggs. Then we'll add the oil. And the milk. Now we'll mix all those together. Once all these ingredients are mixed together, now it's time to introduce the boiling water. We'll be using the water from our espresso machine, which pulls at about boiling. Now you'll take your water, and you want to slowly introduce it into the rest of the mixture. Our last ingredient to introduce to the cake is the 2 shots of espresso. Yeah. Alright. Just like that, our cake batter is ready. So now it's time to grab those 8-inch cake pans. And the goal here is to divide the mixture evenly between each of these 3 pans. Once there's an even amount in those pans, go ahead and take those cake pans over to your oven. If you have a conventional oven like we do here, you're going to want to take one of the cake pans and put it on the bottom rack and the other on the top rack of your oven. And you'll set that for 30 to 35 minutes. You also want to remember that it will be at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. The last of the 3 pans, like we have here, will just sit on top of the stove until the other 2 are done, and do the same amount of time that you would have done with the first 2. Once you have all 3 cake pans out of the oven, go ahead and take the cake out of the cake pan so that it can cool. Now, there's a good chance that your cake might have changed shape while it was in the oven. Ours happened to have domes at the end of it, and a simple fix to that is to just shave off the top so that it's flat. Once your cakes are prepped, you'll want to take a small cake circle, and that's where the first cake will go. You'll also want a pizza pan and another cooling rack, and the cooling rack will go over the pizza pan. This is also the time to pull out that icing once again, and we'll start by putting a small bit of icing on the bottom layer of the cake. Next, take your second layer of the cake. I've decided to flip all the cakes over because I think that the icing will sit better on them and it'll be a more even cake. We'll put that right on top of the first. And we'll add more icing on the second one. Do the same thing that we did with the first layer. And we'll repeat the process again with the third layer. Once the chocolate is coated on the top, we'll start letting it overflow onto the sides, and you can take a knife or other flat instrument to kind of help it along around the edges. That way the whole cake gets coated in chocolate icing. Once the cake has a nice even coating, go ahead and let it set for a little while. We'll come back to it in a moment. Once your chocolate cake has had a chance to sit, it's finally time to either prepare it to serve or prepare it to save. Right now I'm going to be saving it in a standard cake tray. In any case, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I wanted to say a big thank you to Noelle for helping me out today. If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Totally. Fantastic. Alright, well that's the character of the word. I got it. Why people do. There we have the inside of the cake. I'd say it turned out pretty well.